Real quick, y'all, I wanted to talk to you about the Millennial Kingdom, and what happened in and around 1812 was the end of the Millennial Kingdom is what most of us believe. In between 1776 and 1812, I believe it was more like 1812. Satan was loose to cause the liquefaction with the mud flood. Things sunk. You had volcanoes and earthquakes occurring because he was getting let out the abyss. And it talked about a comet going over the earth for a time. I believe he was reassessing the earth because he was taking it back over. I believe the Millennial Kingdom ended with a rapture. I don't know if there was a tribulation rapture, because there's no bodies and there was no people. From cameras that were taken in 1830 or in and around 1830, they supposedly, in our fake history, came out with cameras then, and they were able to take, there was major cities full-on Tartarian type architecture or Greco-Roman architecture with suited for millions of people, and it would tell which city it was. It was all over the earth, and they were empty. And so I believe a rapture occurred, and for a time there was nobody on the earth. But what you do see whenever people started to populate the earth again is sometime in the 1850s, somewhere around there. And what you find is just a few people, and they all are wearing the same type of uniform, kind of looking like a pilgrim. You know, the black and the white, both men and women. They're very stoic. They look like what a narcissist stare would look like. Very empty, hollow, soulless. And they looked like they were out of time. The first generation is called the lost generation. Okay, so there's hinting to you in our history that we were reset. And then you'll find nothing but children. So there was a few adults. They all wore top hats or those big puffy dresses. They looked like pilgrim colors, and they were very stoic. It didn't seem to say much. And they had big high top hats, and then there was a bunch of children. There was orphanages and insane asylums and places like that. Now, a lot of people, nobody speaks on there being a post-millennial kingdom rapture, but there's no bodies, and where did everybody go? And why were there such empty cities? Then they say in this mud flood Tartarian thing that believe in the millennial kingdom that they were all re-educated and put in insane asylums or put to death if they didn't believe the narrative or take up the Gregorian calendar for adding 800 to 1,000 years to the calendar. I'm telling you what happened. There was a rapture after the millennial kingdom, in my opinion. Then the earth was empty for a time, and they had to do things to actually make it ready for people to come back to some degree. There was no plant life. It all got destroyed in a mud flood, and they'll tell you all the forests have been seeded and planted by humanity, and they're less than 200 years old. So they had to do things like that. But anyway, when you do see the children, they were shipping them from every country in the world, and in every place in America. They had a train that went from the East Coast to the West Coast. You can't re-educate people like that. And you can't, if they would have killed that number of people off, we would have known it. We would have been able to find them. There was evidence. So that didn't occur, and I don't know how much God would allow that to happen. But anyway, this is the case. I believe it looks like that in the 1850s to the 1890s, you were seeing a lot of, the first movie, for instance, was a black and white film, this lady pulling babies out of Cabbage Patches. That's where the Cabbage Patch Kid came from. It was copying what really happened, I personally believe, in the mid to late 1800s, that there were babies, live babies coming out of Cabbage Patches. Well, it talks about the rest of the dead coming back, and we don't know what that means. I'm starting to think that this is what it is. The lost generation, that first generation back, the people with the top hats and the women with those big dresses that were stoic and had those pilgrim uniforms on, that those were the hierarchy of the Illuminati that runs the Fortune 500, the banking system, and the powers that we know here on the earth. Yes, they look like people, but I don't believe they're people. I believe that they're fallen angels in human form, and that they reincarnate. God has placed them to reincarnate in the earth over and over. That's part of their damnation until their final damnation. That they rule over us as prince and powers of the air and rulers in high places. High places meaning Fortune 500 company and places like that. Okay, so they look like humanity, but they don't act like us. Everybody says this. Everybody says that. Now, when you know the narcissist and how they operate, the malignant one, you're going to find that they operate out of chaos. Chaos is their order. The Illuminati's order is order out of chaos. They say the same thing. Okay, but I believe that the narcissists are demonic entities that infill people. And they're the street soldiers to take care of the people that have families, go to church, and they're out here on the lower aspect of things. So they're out here to destroy, the saints out here, and then the hierarchy is the fallen angels, but they look like human as well. So the humans that were around after the millennial kingdom ended, the mud flood occurred, and the rapture happened, and then Satan was loose from the abyss. What also was loose was his minions. So the people that were here, that's called the lost generation, or the rest of the dead. It would make sense if they were fallen angels, right? Because they are dead. They're dead and they're damned. And so they have a ruling hierarchy over us called the Illuminati, and Satan is the illuminated one, right? That's what they believe. So anyway, my point is where are the fallen angels? Because it talks about the ones being locked in chains until the time of damnation or whatever. But that's always in Peter and in Jude. They're talking about the 200, that group of the watchers that came down and impregnated human women. And also the beasts of the field. That's why God flooded the whole earth out, because all flesh was corrupt. He had to send the animals to Noah. And the 8 people on the boat, Noah and the other 7 were the only ones that weren't corrupted. Okay, so what I'm getting at is the demons are the copulations of the fallen angels. But the fallen angels would, they don't have to, so in the Old Testament and New Testament stuff, they would come to man as a man. But see, fallen angels do not, they are not subject to what holy angels have to do. So a holy angel will always come to you as a man, because that's what it did in the Bible. Now, and that's our reflection. We always have to reflect whatever the Bible is. That's our key. But the fallen angels can come in any form, because they're deceptive and they don't live by the same rules. They're on another level. God holds them to a different standard, okay? Because they are here to test humanity. So I believe that the humans that were back on the earth, that first generation, it's very possible that they were the fallen angels. Now, the children that were coming out of the Cabbage Patches, the live Cabbage Patches, and you can see these on old postcards all the way up until like early 1900s, that there was babies at incubators, there was babies everywhere. They had an orphan train that sent babies from the East Coast and children from the East Coast to the West Coast just to drop off kids. They were shipping these kids out at 30,000 at a clip out of like England, France, and Sweden and Russia, to different parts of the area. And that's why you see children doing adult jobs. They didn't have people to rev up this infrastructure, so they had to start using children. That's why you'll see in these old movies that you'll see children doing adult jobs, smoking cigars and delivering mail and stuff, because they're telling you the truth in the lie, because that was what had to happen in the very beginning. And so I believe that the rest of the dead were the fallen angels. That was the adults that appeared right away. And then, you know, of course, it was a rapture. Then there was the fallen angels came back with the enemy, Satan. They prepared the earth. And then at some point in time after that, maybe 1840s and 50s, babies started popping out of Cabbage Patches. And look into yourself. The first movie was a lady pulling live babies out of Cabbage Patches. The very first movie in the 1890s. After that, you'll see postcards where they were all coming out of Cabbage Patches, like thousands of postcards in every country of the world. Then they were selling babies. Then they were delivering babies. Then they had ads in the papers about anybody that wants babies. They had orphanages and they had insane asylums. But they didn't have to re-educate them. They just educated them to the false narrative that we believe today. And fallen angels can speak any language. So if you position the fallen angel human in these different countries, they could act like that culture, speak like that language. And that's what they did. And that's what those humans were. And they were probably all to the level of depravity. So that's why we have what you see as narcissism in the world today, that are prepped for demons to infill. This is my humble opinion of it. And the demons, they're the copulations of the fallen angels. So they're going to be more of the worker bees than the ones in the high and lofty places. Now, you can get humanity that can, there's another sect where humanity can sell their souls and have some sort of control over their body, but still be damned. Because they're going to have to operate in the system, because they would gain the whole world but lose their own soul. So you have them, you have the narcissists that would be filled with demonic entities, and then the fallen angels, which run the hierarchy. Because when you see the Illuminati, they are not concerned about dying. It's like their agenda can go out thousands of years or many hundreds of years, like it's no big deal. And anybody in these systems that act like philanthropists and people that are doing great things, they're not. It's just a role. This whole world's a stage. And that's why that God put the firmament in place, because he locked these things in here with us so they can't get out either. We're in a snow globe and it goes even under the earth. After you get to an 8-mile period under the earth of drilling, you cannot drill any further. And you can't get out anywhere. But they have to make you believe that God doesn't exist and Satan doesn't exist. So they tell you that space is out there and they CGI it. And then they tell you if anybody's coming, it's not going to be God, it's going to be the demonic aliens from outer space. But if that's even a hoax or not, I don't even believe in them anymore, maybe. I believe in the spiritual realm, they're at least existent. And these cryptids and stuff, you can't catch them, but they do exist, because I believe they're coming in and out of our reality, in and out of our dimension. And things like that are occurring, like Wolfman, Bigfoots, and stuff like that. They're copulations of old, that they come in and out of our dimensional reality. That's my opinion of it. And the aliens, if they're coming from anywhere, it's from under the earth and out of the ocean. They speak about that now. And they say, you know, since cell phones came out and you can take pictures and video cam everything, you don't see alien space shuttles anymore in the sky. Why is that? It's just so stupid, because now we have technology and we can catch them on their game. That's my opinion of it. But anyway, that's what happened. They added the 1,000 years to the calendar. Right when he was loose, there was nobody on the earth. So the people that did come on the earth were all new. It was already changed. And that's my opinion of it. And they burned down every city of the world, pretty much. I mean, a lot of cities got burned in the 1800s. If you look them up, I'm going to do a video on that. But it looks like almost like they got nuked. But they were all Greco and Roman. They had to destroy a lot of this stuff. And you'll notice in these wars, they destroy a lot of cities, carpet bomb them, firebomb them, because they got to make you, they got to knock some of these buildings down, or you're going to know there was giants in the land and we couldn't build this stuff. And they were so focused on art at the time, it tells you that they were a higher echelon of society. Because if you're focusing on art, then that means that you ain't working and you don't have to do much except think about how you can advance your gifts. And I do believe when you see gargoyles and all these things that have been refaced, some of them have been refaced or defaced, as far as these monsters you see on these buildings, gargoyles and these god statues like Libertas and stuff like that. Well, okay, so this is what I said about this is, in the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve sinned, everything got corrupt. Mosquitoes started biting people and sucking for blood, but they didn't do it before. Lions and tigers started killing each other. This didn't happen before the sin in the Garden of Eden. It happened after. That's why everything got cloaked with sin after the Millennial Kingdom again. So that's why these buildings don't look as gorgeous maybe as they did when Christ was here, because the glory was taken off of them and sin layered this whole earth. The whole foundations of the earth. It's almost like a car doesn't rust in heaven, but it rusts on earth because of sin, y'all. The patina on copper that makes it turn green, that's because of the sin. And I believe that these statues and things may have been glorious statues and godly statues, but after the Millennial Kingdom ended, again, Satan was loosed. He corrupt everything just by his existence in our reality, and it changed even the statues and the writings. And this is how we could be in the short season. And the rest of the dead, this could be your answer. The rest of the dead would be the fallen ones that were loose with him. And who are we that came back? Some people believe all the babies and children and people that never had a chance in the past because they got deceased at an early age, a young age, or, you know, put to death at a young age. They didn't even have a chance to choose God, Christ or not. Maybe we're all the people that were there in the past that maybe we lived for a few days or a couple of years, but we never had a chance to choose. So he's letting us all come back on the second sec. Or also the people that were in maybe some places that they didn't never hear about Christ, maybe, and have a chance, the opportunity to receive Christ. Or people maybe just also before Christ, you know, they just never had an opportunity. So maybe he's allowing those people to regenerate for another life. That would seem like reincarnation. But I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's possible of that. I don't know if that would be called reincarnation, though. That may be along the lines of a grace, giving us grace to give us a chance because we never had a chance before, maybe. And so maybe that would actually determine what we call deja vu, because maybe we did see it in a past life, and that was one or a few remembrances and hints of it. Anyway, this is kind of deep, but if you can take the time to listen to it and, you know, not judge it until you look into the matter, please. I'm just trying to dissect this because I know that something has happened like this. If not this, but it says in the Bible, he changed time and times, and that's what he did with that Gregorian calendar. So if you can give me a like, subscription, and a thumbs up, it says that everybody in the world would be deceived, even the very elect. And I believe that could have been very possible in every generation that was there, that they didn't know which generation they were in because Satan had deceived them then as well. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Peace and have a good night.